is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Four teams last night had the opportunity to tie their respective series at 2. All 4 failed. Chaos in the sports world, though, extending beyond the surfaces of play, though, last night as we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Phan, Tobel with you. Also on the show today, Justin Phan of Unabated Sports going to join us to talk through some NBA with us, and VSiN's own Dustin Sweetelson to get into the MLB card. But safe to say, JVT, the text chain for Money Moves was lighting up yesterday.
It was. I was forcing you guys to interact with me. I need friendship, and so I was probably blowing you up a little bit here. Had some very good jokes, too. So a couple of drinks in. But yes, like yesterday was crazy. You're talking about the NBA draft. Obviously, the lottery I thought was incredible. I mean, we'll get into that. I was on local radio yesterday, and I just started yelling off mic about what the hell, what is going on. I thought yesterday was great. Like, sports-wise, the results on the court, on the ice, and everything else, it was fine. But the narrative and the stories from yesterday were incredible.
And we will get into the details of that in a moment and beyond. But real quickly, let's set the table with everything else we have to come here today on Money Moves. Producer Brian Ortega, if you would, let's fire up the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
In addition to all of the NBA and NHL playoff action that we have going on, the PGA Championship coming up this week, second major of the year, getting underway Thursday. We're going to dive into some names worth a look, and you love this horse for the course history, how guys have played, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you read up on Quail Hollow, and it's a polarizing course in the grand scheme of the PGA Tour, and people have comments about it on both ends of it. But it's also a course where guys like Rory McIlroy and others have had continued and sustained success. And mostly because, we'll get into some of the details of it, you can just kind of ham-fist drive your way through this thing is what it would seem like. So it would seem, look, course history is very important for a lot of these. We know about that when we talk about Augusta and the Masters. But I think course history is also very, very important when it comes to Quail Hollow because you see a lot of the same names near the top.
And we talk about guys vomited off the tee, too, especially with the way that the weather has played out this week. That becomes that much more important. Then number 2 in our top 3 items today, to go back to the draft lottery. I wrote this out as, so you're telling me there's a chance, a 1.8% chance to be exact, as the Dallas Mavericks pull off the near impossible, earning the right to draft consensus number 1 overall pick Cooper Flagg just 3 months after Nico Harrison blew it all up with the Luka Doncic trade.
Yes, I will. I mean, I can get angry about this later. I kind of got mad at Dave and Jensen earlier today. I wasn't like at them about the ridiculous conversations we're having about this now when it comes to not only conspiracy theories about rigging the NBA draft lottery, but also how it actually does not help when it comes to the whole tanking thing. I would vehemently disagree with that. I think we had evidence of that yesterday. But at the end of the day, this is like hair-pulling madness. The bad guys win, folks. Like, this is representative of life. Sometimes there is no God. Sometimes the terrible things happen to us and the good things happen to bad people. And this is exactly what we're talking about here. In no universe, anything like that, when you judge on the basis of morality, would anybody like this team deserve to get the first overall pick? And yet here we are.
I said this to you on the escalator down to the studio today. Nico Harrison, I don't know if it's the eyebrows or if it's like the skinny frame situation, but he does kind of have a villainous look to him.
Well, there's a picture out there of him kind of like looking down. I don't know where the angle is, but it's one where he's kind of like looking down at the camera from wherever it is. It's a very evil looking photo. So I think that does very much help. But I mean, this is incredible. And by the way, it buries the other conversation, which is the Spurs getting up to 2, the 76ers getting up to 3, the other tanking teams falling out of the top 4. That was amazing yesterday. Absolutely.
Yeah, you feel for the Wizards, the Jazz, the Hornets, who just can't seem to catch a break year after year in the lottery. And then number 1 in our top 3 items, NHL and NBA playoffs, obviously rolling on. We're going to preview the 3 games on tap tonight and a look back at what transpired yesterday, starting here in Boston, who, now finds themselves down 3-1 in the series with New York, but lost a lot more than the game. Brutal non-contact injury to Jason Tatum. No confirmed MRI reports yet, JVT, but everyone who saw that was yelling Achilles, which is worst case scenario for a guy like him.
I mean, obviously, and this is another Achilles we see here in this postseason, so that really sucks. But when you talk about the magnitude and what we're looking at in terms of how it affects a team the next year for Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics, a Celtics team that, from a financial standpoint, Stormy, was going to be up against it heading into this offseason and did need to make some decisions about their roster because of how much they were paying guys, especially now with new ownership. That always changes everything. And in terms of how the people who ultimately write the check want to handle their books, i.e. what just happened in Dallas, by the way. So, like, we're in a very weird situation for the Celtics. That doesn't even account for the fact that this Celtics team has wildly disappointed, down 3-1 now in this series, blowing multiple 20-point leads. I mean, you could be sitting there at the very least making a case like, man, we should be up 3-1 considering the way these first few games have gone. But you're not, because you did not deliver. And we talked about this yesterday a little bit. The Knicks offensively had done nothing throughout this series heading into last night's game. But at some point when you have an offensive talent like Jalen Brunson, maybe that was going to happen, that the offense was going to wake up. Well, it did yesterday. The Knicks offense was great yesterday. The individual players were absolutely fantastic. Brunson comes into this game, gives them 39 points in 40 minutes. Mikal Bridges gives them 23 and 44 and hits some really big shots down the stretch. And you have nobody to blame but yourself as a franchise for being in the hole that you're in, and it is made worse by a really tragic injury to a guy who, of course, was playing very well, had finally woken up from the slump, 42 points on 16 to 28 shooting, and that's when it happened.
It was his best game of the series by far. He was, especially at that point in the game where they're down 7, and I think still very much so in the game. He was single-handedly kind of doing that for this group. You mentioned the championship window element of it, which I think is interesting just because they come off the big win last year, and the whole conversation is, okay, with this group, how many can they ultimately string together? Now for Tatum, this is a year lost. Al Horford's 34, Drew Holiday, same thing. This roster is getting older, and you mentioned the money element of it. As far as this postseason goes, down 3-1 now. They go from being minus 300 going into yesterday's game to plus 400 today. New York now minus 525, as high out as I saw minus 600 at ESPN Bet. Here is Al Horford followed by Jaylen Brown on their thoughts on the series without their star.
Well, it's very concerning, just from, the care that I have for him, and what he means to us, what he means to Boston. Just very tough for us, and more importantly, it's just really tough for him right now. So, let's see what happens. But just very tough for our group altogether.
I think everybody's concerned, with Jason. I'm not sure how bad it is. Didn't look great. But I think everybody is, kind of more concerned with that. Obviously, the loss is huge. And but we got to get ready for Game 5. So we'll take the night and pick our heads up tomorrow and put together a game plan to come out on our own floor to keep this series alive.
And you can hear it in their voice what that means. You feel for Jason Tatum immediately on the court. You know it's bad, and you see the devastation in his eyes when he's in the wheelchair in the hallway. That's not from pain. That's from knowing what that is ultimately. And we talked about this yesterday, JVT. We both were such believers in Boston turning a tide in Game 3 and what that could have meant last night and beyond for the series and for the Eastern Conference, all of these things. Now in a gotta-have-it game tomorrow, Boston's laying 4.5, up from the opener of 4, totaled 207.5. Without Jason Tatum, what do you make of that game and beyond?
Well, here's the thing. I would initially say, I don't know, we can go through some of the numbers here in a second. Excuse me. But what is irritating and also fascinating, you are now, if you're just blindly betting these straight up losers in this postseason, 31-15-1 against the spread. So maybe you just do that.
Yeah.
Maybe who cares? Who cares that Jason Tatum's not going to be out there? Who cares that this team has not been good in the minutes that he has not been on the floor in this postseason? They lost the last game, and that's been working for you. Now, some of the actual evidence behind this, which I think is going to be pretty fascinating for this next game in the series and this potential closeout game out in Boston, in the regular season, Stormy, when Jason Tatum was not on the floor, the Celtics outscored their opponents by 8.7 points per 100 possessions. It's a very good net rating. In terms of percentile, it ranks in the 87th percentile. Their most used lineup had a plus 13.4 net rating when you're talking about the regular season without Jason Tatum. Very good. In this postseason, they have only outscored their opponents by 0.4 points per 100 possessions without Tatum on the floor. It has been night and day. The supporting cast has not really shown up. Porzingis is clearly still dealing with whatever this illness is. He played 24 minutes yesterday, looked a little bit more aggressive. And these numbers, these are not good. 20 points, 7 rebounds, 43% shooting, 30% from beyond the arc. That's Jaylen Brown so far in this postseason. Brown has not shown up at all. He has been non-existent. So if you're going to get that, if you're going to get the team that can't do it without Tatum, that has barely been getting by, whose secondary star in Brown has been a no-show in this postseason, why would you believe that they're going to be able to do it outside of this postseason has been wacky and weird, and the fact that you just straight up lose a game prior means that you're going to come out and potentially win and cover the next game.
Hey, plus 154 for them outright, the New York Knicks, that is, in Boston. New York has trailed by 14 or more points in the second half of every game of this series. Come back to win 3 of them.
How about this? This is my favorite statistic. This was tweeted out yesterday.
Is it the minutes?
So maybe this is it, what you're talking about here. Let me see. Okay, so this is from Justin Russo. At one point in the fourth quarter, their 7-point lead. Now, again, they had a larger lead because they ended up winning by, 8 or 9. But they had taken the Knicks a 7-point lead at one point in the fourth quarter. It was their largest lead of the series. As Justin Russo points out, if not, it's not happening until game 4 of the series, that they're 3 minutes and 21 seconds away from leading 3-1. Yeah. Think about that. Their largest lead of the series had come with 3.5 minutes left to go in a game in which they were a minute away or 2 minutes away from getting up 3-1. Like that, it was weird.
This goes right down that vein, and this was from ESPN Stats and Info. They, for the entirety of the series, have led for less than a combined 25 minutes. It is by far the least amount of time any team up in a series through 4 games has ever had in the play-by-play era.
You figure it out.
So, worth noting. Also, the Warriors fall behind 3-1 without their star available. Great third quarter for Anthony Edwards. He and Julius Randle both go for 30-plus. Heck of a day there. We're just getting started. When we come back, let's dive more into that draft lottery from last night.
You're watching Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The tinfoil hats are out as we welcome you back to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. JVT, Stormy Buonantony with you. The Dallas Mavericks, who this year trade Luka Doncic away, only have a 1.8% chance to win the draft lottery and the right to select Cooper Flagg. Ultimately do that 1.8%, the fourth lowest odds to win the lottery since it began in 1985, and a 50-1 betting shot on the board. And like you said, apparently just bad people get all the good things.
Yeah. First off, there was a book out there that was offering 34-1 on the Dallas Mavericks to get the first overall pick. So as we talked about yesterday, I don't know why you would bet into the market like this. Unless you honestly think it's fixed. I actually did get a text from somebody yesterday that said, can you put money on the Charlotte Hornets for me? And thank God the market was down at that point, because I was like, why are we doing this? Look, the Hornets finished fourth, so you say that person got saved. So that aside, which is, it's criminal that you were offering 34-1 on a 1.8, literal 1.8% chance, but that's neither here nor there. That's why when we were texting yesterday and we were talking about like, hey, what are the odds on this? Yeah. I guess properly, because you can just kind of guess. Like, well, that's like about 50-1, or 55-1, so probably about 50-1. And sure enough, that's exactly what it was. Having said that, like you said, I think there's a couple of things that kind of irritate me. A lot of things irritate me.
Let's go. Can't wait.
Well, the first is, can anybody answer this question for me? If this was rigged, as many people are telling me it is, did the rigging happen before Anthony Davis got hurt in his first game as a Dallas Maverick? Did it happen before Kyrie Irving tore his ACL? Or did the NBA decide once those guys got hurt that now we should actually give them the first overall pick when the lottery comes around? Or are we alleging that both of them did not get hurt and that Kyrie Irving is actually faking a torn ACL? And to then establish the ruse even further, he will then sit out until next January. Right? Like, is that what we're doing here? Like,
so I think the conspiracy is all injury aside. It's just that Nico and Adam Silver have had this conversation. They've been prepared. Adam Silver, Pelinka, all got together before they made the trade for Luka and said, okay, you do this so that we can up the ratings for the NBA. I'm saying this is Twitter, okay? Up the ratings for the NBA, get another star back in Los Angeles to pair with LeBron, and we're going to gift you with the number 1 overall pick.
But then why'd they try to make the playoffs?
Listen.
And then what happened with the injuries?
Listen.
Are we going to explain with the injuries or not?
I'm not one of these people. I'm just playing devil's advocate of what social media is saying.
By the way, think about that too, which is, hey, Nico, you and your franchise are going to take such a financial hit because your fan base is going to hate you so much.
Well, he didn't realize how much that the fans liked Luka, remember?
You're going to be able to,
idea.
right, that's right. You're going to have to take that hit so we can get Luke at LA, and then we'll give this pick back to you. And again, nobody has yet to explain to me what happened with the injuries. So that's neither here nor there. The other part about this that has irritated me is all of a sudden there was this, man, this draft lottery, this just doesn't work. Yes, it does. Yeah, Gil and I were talking about this right here before we were changing desk, which is, dude, look at picks 5 and 6 for me, folks. The Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards set out this year to tank, to get the top overall selection. They finished outside of the top 4. They completely and utterly failed at their job because the odds have been flattened out. I don't understand this concept of like, this doesn't work. Yes, it does. Stop trying to tank. You burn your fan base by doing what you have done, and here is your reward. You finish 4, 5, and 6, and you're talking about the Hornets, the Jazz, and the Wizards. So I don't really get that either, but here we are, and now I can't wait for NBA draft season because we know what number 1 is going to be. I don't know if it's a given that he plays for the Mavericks, but we do know that it's going to be Cooper Flag.
Minus 20,000, that price for him to be the number 1 overall pick. Now, okay, you mentioned that pretty subtly. I don't know if it's going to be for the Mavericks. Do you think that they trade that pick?
I think it's extremely likely that he plays for the Mavericks. Well, I'll get that out there front, but it is not 100%. And I think that when you look at what the Mavericks have done,
I think Mavs fans might really burn it down if Nico Harrison did.
But what if I told you they got Giannis Antetokounmpo? Right? Like that's the whole point here, which is, look, like the Mavericks willingly shortened their window. I think Flag works really well next to Anthony Davis. You can do the whole 2 timelines thing. You can get a franchise star, whatever it is. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Mavericks, a team that it's been reported has long coveted Giannis Antetokounmpo, who willingly shortened their championship window by trading away Luka Doncic in a very big win now move type thing, would then be going, they're at least having the meeting of like, hey man, we now have the number 1 overall pick. We have some stuff that we can move here to potentially go and get Giannis.
And what about 2 now, just to carry that on? Because while Dallas jumps 10 spots, the Spurs jump 6 to the number 2 overall pick. And I was asking you the question yesterday, if San Antonio could be a desirable destination for a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now with the number 2 overall selection, do they also have a little bit more edge in that? Like,
hell yeah. Yeah, dude. Like the Spurs are definitely open for business now. I mean, the fact that they have like the pieces they already did. If you look right here in this draft order, they have 2 and they have 14. So that's attractive. You have pieces available, excuse me, that I think would be very attractive for Milwaukee. I think this team is definitely in the running for that.
Okay. We do have 2 games coming up in the NBA tonight. I am excited for, as we get closer to the NBA draft, to really dive into those odds beyond Cooper Flag, because I know you do such a good job with those. But Indiana tonight has a chance to cement their spot in the conference finals. Cavs, however, a 7.5-point home favorite, which even though we've seen this series at home with them be around 10, this still seems high to me considering the injury questions that we have, most notably, of course, Donovan Mitchell, who was on the court at shoot-around this morning, expected to be a game-time decision with that weird injury that took place at halftime when he was just kind of warming up. Garland, Mobley, Hunter all returned and are off of the injury report. 7.5, though. It didn't look good. It didn't look good. That's all I'm saying. It didn't look good.
I mean, look, again, in the NBA postseason, up is down, left is right. Like things are like in this second round, especially, I have just kind of felt like I've just been playing catch up this whole time. And here we are again, where if you've just played the straight up loser of the previous game, you're 31-15. You're 31-15-1 against the spread.
That is absurd.
It is. It's absolutely ridiculous. There is really no rhyme and reason to it. But here we are again, and the market, I think, is pricing that in somewhat. Through 4 games, again, you have seen no evidence that Indiana is deserving of being this big of an underdog to Cleveland. Yep, there's no evidence that would support that case at all. And yet here we are. And there is a lot that would show that this team is kind of punting on this, but they're also just not fully healthy. Darius Garland has this shoe that is holding his toe in place. Hunter doesn't look particularly healthy. Evan Mobley is still dealing with the ankle. And now you have Donovan Mitchell, and you don't want to put that out there, Stormy, but at the same time, we should note that Mitchell been dealing with a lot, including I think it was a calf issue at one point. We have seen what has happened in this postseason when you try to push a soft tissue injury multiple times. So that's got to be something that you consider here. I just don't know why we would put this up to 8 other than saying, dude, zigzag here. Cavs are back home. They're desperate, and they're going to come out and win this game. I mean, maybe that's the case, but I am amazed that the number is where it's at because this is more than just, hey, we think the Cavs are better. Like, this is a number that says we think they're exponentially better than the Indiana Pacers, and that has not been the case through the first 4 games of the series.
And moving, I believe here at Circa we're at 8.
Yes.
So,
and I think that comes on the news of him participating in shoot around, right? So like the market moving to like that 7.5. I think the thought was, all right, maybe he's not going to play, but the fact that he's at shoot around is a very good sign that he's going to be available.
Indiana, I did figure would be a popular bet, and it was interesting looking at the bet splits we have up at vsin.com right now. Certainly bear that out. DraftKings 76% of the bets, but just 50% of the handle. Circa, and we talked about that line moving, 93% of the bets are on Indiana, 61% of the handle though. I'm actually more interested in betting Indiana if Mitchell were to actually be confirmed in, because then I think that number might inflate a little bit more and you're getting even more points with the Pacers here. From a prop perspective, do you have any interest in a guy like Garland? I know you talk about the toe, but should we have a compromised Donovan Mitchell? That's the guy that you are going to need to rise up for you. Any interest there? 18.5, 19.5, the number I've seen for him?
No, I think the name, and he has not played well. So this is like a hold your nose and just dive right in.
Okay.
But Ty Jerome might be the guy that you actually look at. Look, Jerome stinks. He has been awful throughout this series. And I do wonder if maybe you look at him only because role players tend to play a little bit better back at home. If Mitchell is hurt, Jerome is more than willing to take on shots. And I do wonder if maybe you see a little bit more of a shot diet there for him, only because of what we're talking about here. They desperately need him to play. And Kenny Atkinson, even the other day, asked about this, said, quote, we need him in the series. So I think Jerome's still going to be getting his level of shots, and his number might be watered down here because of how poorly he's played.
Okay, 7.5, 8, the number that we're seeing there for the Cleveland Cavaliers at home, total 230. Also, Nuggets Thunder going head-to-head. OKC, a double-digit 10-point home favorite in that one with the series tied at 2, total 220.5. And remember, everybody, no better time than the playoffs to check out all of the sharp plays at sharpplays.com, where real bettors go to get ahead. Since 2011, Sharp Plays has been locked in on what real pros are betting, bets that are moving markets. When you sign up, you'll gain access to not only the bets, but all of Sharp Plays' powerful AI tools and betting reports, plus real-time alerts and updates through email or X. And perhaps most importantly, betting logs live and available on the site each and every day. Don't take our word for it. Check it out for yourself when you head over to sharpplays.com. That's sharpplays.com. Of course, we will have our best bets for both of those games a little bit later on in the show. But coming up, we will give our first look at the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. Coming up after this, Scotty Scheffler, your favorite, but Rory McIlroy right there, had a lot of success out there in North Carolina. We'll be right back.
Something about those nights, huh?
You're watching Money Moves here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Live in downtown Las Vegas Circa Resort and Casino. We're back here on this Tuesday edition of Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony and Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And the tweets are lighting up with the conspiracy theories, JVT.
Well, just one. And Rob's a very nice fellow, checks in and says, good morning, JVT. Good morning, Rob, by the way. That's a very nice way to start. Usually tweets at me start with dumbass. Good morning, JVT. I just wanted to comment about the NBA lottery. Everything was and is fixed. Every sport and every outcome is fixed and controlled. There's too much money in sports gambling for the books to depend on luck.
So, okay, why does it always come back to gambling it's gambling's fault? Sports are all rigged, and it's all gambling is rigged, and then your rebuttal would be,
well, then why do you bet on it? That's always
precisely.
That's always the thing. Because I got this, it wasn't Rob, but somebody else tweeted me yesterday or the other day when I retweeted something about like it's amazing that people bet into this because Julian Edlow over at DraftKings had tweeted out the lottery odds and how there was actually like a high amount of bets on like draft lottery odds. I was like, dude, come on, like, folks, what are we doing here? And the response to me was, well, yeah, you can bet on it because it's fixed. And like the answer is always, okay, so what's the fixed part?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Apparently, we should have known it was the Dallas Mavericks.
Obviously.
How did we
not know, JVT? We missed that.
Yes. Let's see. So
you do have everybody pulling out the frozen envelope like from back in the day.
23% of the bets yesterday were on the Wizards to get the first overall pick over at DraftKings. Jazz were at 6-1, were 16% of the handle. Hornets at 6-1 were 12%. Bulls at 55-1 were 8%. And then the Spurs, just missed it. 14-1, 6% of the handle on the Spurs.
What was the percentage on the maps?
I did not get that from
available?
Edlo, but I did get that it was just 50-1. And that was available. They had every team up.
Classic.
You just shaded a little bit, like we said, literal odds at 1.8%, right, to win the first overall pick. You shaded up, like, especially when you're talking about that minuscule percentage, like 2% to get some more hold out of that, whatever it was. And sure enough, it was like 50-1.
Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory?
Like in general?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think the world's ready for that.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, I don't think the world's ready for that one.
My favorite one is about the moon landing. I find it fascinating.
So that is pretty interesting. Humans and I actually did do a show on this a couple of months ago. My favorite is that I do believe Princess Diana and Tupac are still alive. So
Whoa. Yeah. Okay.
She's still out there.
So the Tupac one. I didn't know that a lot of people still believe Princess Diana was alive, but the Tupac one is yes.
I mean, it's
very much so.
It's easy to believe in fact, Stormy.
Oh, obviously. There we go. Okay, let's get into some golf because the PGA Championship actually is real. Coming up this weekend, Quail Hollow, North Carolina, beginning on Thursday. Oh, by the way.
Why would you ask me and then make fun of my belief?
I'm not making fun of your belief. I find that interesting. Wait, where's your evidentiary support? Is Elvis alive as well?
I don't know about that one. That's a ridiculous thought to have.
Why is that a ridiculous thought to have? But Princess Diana and Tupac, not ridiculous.
What is it? What was her? Who was her? Didn't she allegedly have like a lover or something like that?
I don't know. We're getting too deep in the weeds. I did want to remind people while we get into the PGA Championship stuff, Long Shots, the premier golf betting podcast, will be live today, 11:15 Pacific, 2:15 Eastern this morning on the VSiN YouTube channel. You'll have all of the guys, Wes Reynolds, Kelly Bidland, Matt Brown, breaking down the course at Quail Hollow. Course history, we mentioned it earlier, been really good for Rory McIlroy. Scotty Scheffler still your favorite coming into the weekend, plus 425, but much shorter odds than we typically see for Rory at the top of the odds board at 5-1 coming into this one.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I mean, obviously it's a golf major, so that's always a lot of fun. It is interesting because you have a lot of guys near the top of the leaderboard that are in really, really good form and with good course history. So you do wonder if that is going to hold. But you mentioned Rory. I mean, the dude's been great this year. 8 events, 8 cuts made, 3 wins. In his last 5 starts, tied for 7th, tied for 12th, won in the playoff of the Masters, tied for 5th, and then won in the playoff of the Players. The guy's been absolute nails throughout this year, and now he goes to a place where he has a ton of success. I don't think it's a surprise at all that some spots have Rory as the co-favorite and that his odds to finish top 5, whatever it is, are all there. And I do think that there is it's a non-data point for the most part, but there are some that to be said of finally getting the monkey off your back. And getting the Grand Slam and now appearing in a tournament like this at a course that you are very well built as a golfer to dominate. I was reading a great piece from The Athletic about just how Quail Hollow is viewed in the grand scheme of the PGA Tour and like how Rory McIlroy, like he has almost the antidote to the course, which is like, I'm just going to bomb this thing, dude. Like I can get over all of this. And some of these guys that are playing really well can do that too.
I love one of the quotes that came out of that article. I guess I would say Quail Hollow is like a Kardashian. It's very modern, beautiful, and well kept, but it lacks a soul or character. Yeah,
it's a weird and polarizing course. I didn't know that about Quail Hollow until I read that piece, but I'm very interested to see what's going to happen here and if many of these golfers are going to get challenged because, as we mentioned, there's a lot of guys here. So we put this together, horse for the course for Quail Hollow. These are guys in terms of rounds played, how well they've done in terms of true strokes gained. You can find all this over at Data Golf if you'd like. It's nice interactive to give you an idea of how dudes play here. And you see some familiar names near the top. You know, Rory McIlroy has played 50 rounds here, by far the best golfer in terms of true strokes gained. Look at that gap between him and Jason Day at number 2.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, over a large sample size, dominated at Quail Hollow. And I think you got to include Rory in some form or fashion as you're kind of betting this thing, just given how well he has played and how well he is playing right now. But I think the next most interesting guy is Jason Day. You can find him in the range of 80-1. He's got 9 events so far this PGA Tour, 9 cuts made, 4 top 25 finishes, 3 top 10 finishes. His last 4, he did withdraw from the Truist last week, allegedly an illness, so we'll see if maybe there's something there. But the 4 before that, okay, tied for 49th, but tied for 8, tied for 27th, tied for 8 again, and a course in which over 28 rounds he's played relatively well. I know he's not like the best, but I feel like Day, he was an intriguing long shot that I added at 81. for me this weekend, just given how well he's played and some pretty decent form and some pretty decent performances this year.
Yeah, the rounds number closer today than Rory McIlroy for Justin Thomas and Bryson DeChambeau, but
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of smart people say that those are two guys that have really interested in them coming into this week as well. Kind of those mid-range prices. So for DeChambeau, I guess plus 950, not particularly mid-range for him, but JT 22-1.
Yeah, so Thomas was the other guy that really did kind of stick out when you looked at some of the numbers, at least for me. He's playing really well, too. He's played in 11 events so far this year. He's made all 11 cuts, 6 top 25 finishes. He's finished 6 events inside of the top 10. Look at his last 4. Tied for second. He won in the playoff of the RBC Heritage, tied for 36th, and an outright second as well. And we know, too, again, course form. He won Quail Hollow, or won the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow back in 2017. At a course like this, which is a little bit more forgiving, he's a little more errant off the tee in terms of fairway accuracy, only hitting about like 57%. You can get away with that at a course like this at Quail Hollow. So I think that's going to work really well. His putter's been actually really hot so far, too. I think JT is a guy that's very much worth looking at. And again, like you said, mid-range, too. So for your average bettor at 22-1, it's a little bit more fun to sweat out, or even higher. I think there's 25-1 out there on him. That's like a little bit more fun to add there, too. But Thomas really stuck out, and I can't wait to talk to some smart golf people a little bit later. I will say, and I hate to say this, he is my new white whale. I finally, many years ago, I got Hideki Matsuyama at the Masters when he won that. And ever since Shinnecock, Tommy Fleetwood has been my white whale, my Moby Dick. And he is out there at about 45-1. I think it's at Quail Hollow in his last 3 starts. He's finished top 20 in each of them. Like, he's done a pretty decent job here. PGA Championship is actually one of the few majors in which he has not placed at the podium, if you will. So that's going to be pretty interesting. But Fleetwood's kind of played okay here at this course recent years, and I know he hasn't done very well, and he's just kind of the guy that never is going to win an event, but Fleetwood very much intrigues me yet again.
45-1 outright, plus 650 top 5, 3-1 for a top 10.
Or maybe I should just stop, Maybe I have a problem.
Never give up, never surrender.
Right.
But because you mentioned Rory and thinking of like different ways to get involved with him, were there any additional markets? Because with his outright price being so cheap, all the derivative markets are obviously much more expensive.
Yeah.
So where do you look really if you want to get involved in Rory McIlroy in some way, shape, or form?
I don't know. I mean, like, I feel
or do you wait
like,
to live bet it if he struggles early or something?
I mean, he's done that, right? We know Rory. He's kind of all over the place a lot of the times. I would be a little worried about it just because how well he's played at this course. Like, is he really going to start off slow? Is he going to do the Rory thing where we're looking at him and being like, brother, what are we doing? But at the same time, like, given how well he's played at this course, I don't know, man. Even money to finish top 5 or something better like that, something under like minus 190 at DraftKings for a top 10. If you can find something cheaper there, just given how well he's played and how well he is playing, I wouldn't mind laying under $2 for him to make a top 10. Given how well he has approached this year, I mean, he's been great.
Also, not saying this warrants a bet, but I did just think it was interesting hearing Jordan Spieth on the podium around this event as he searches for that last leg of the Grand Slam. Said, if I could only win one tournament for the rest of my life, I'd pick this one, and talked about how seeing Rory finally put on the green jacket and win the Masters was really inspiring for him. What do you think about his skill set with this course?
I mean, I'm always a fan of Jordan Spieth for the most part, and when you see him and his odds kind of start to dip out there when you're talking about the way he's been priced. I mean, again, if I were to come from the past, like if you were to go back in the past and be like, hey, at some point for these majors, you're going to get like 50-1 on Jordan Spieth. You'd be like, that's crazy. And he has shown at times that he has somewhat still of the same skill set here. But man, the dude's kind of a head case.
A little bit.
Yeah, like I just sometimes when he's yelling at his caddy and he's free, I don't know, man.
I'll have my official bets on the PGA Championship tomorrow, but I can tell you already, a Shane Lowry top 20 will be in there.
Hell yeah.
It's in every big golf event that I do, and it is cashed more often than not. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, Justin Phan of Unabated is going to stop by. We'll get his thoughts on the NBA action coming up.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Postseason rolls on tonight. OKC, big home favorite. Meanwhile, the Cavs looking to stave off elimination against the Pacers. So lots to get to and discuss as we welcome Justin Phan into the show via the Progressive Guest Line, Managing Director of Unabated Sports and the Unabated NBA specific platform. You can follow him on X at JFanned, P-H-A-N-N-E-D. Welcome in, Justin. And while I know you come on with us every week, we're always talking. Our regular viewers are very familiar with Unabated and what you all do over there. But for any of our new listeners, what is Unabated? How can sports bettors profit and benefit from having it?
Yeah, Unabated. At Unabated, we're creating tools and resources that'll help you sustainably win in the long term. We're creating community there as well that makes the process seem less daunting and more accessible. Myself, I'm in charge of the NBA product. It's breaking news. It's player projections. Conditional projections as well. So if Donovan Mitchell is in or out today, we'll give you the ability to toggle between what the Cavs projections look like with Donovan Mitchell in and with Donovan Mitchell out. We have a prop screen that allows you to easily shop for the best price among all the books and calculate edges and just get out ahead of the news before it happens. So, I think we have a whole suite of tools and resources that you can get to. I don't want to take too much of the segment getting into it, but our goal is to put the power in your hands and give the bettors the ability to make profitable decisions.
I will say the player prop odds screen is very, very strong. I use it every day, so it's very much worth it. And you could sort points, rebounds, everything. So it's absolutely great tool. All right, Justin, so let's go to tonight. Pacers and Cavs, Donovan Mitchell at shoot-around. So it seems like he's trending toward potentially playing here today. This number is 8 in favor of Cleveland with a total of 229.5 or 230, depending on where you shop. What in the world do we do with this?
I still think the 8 is giving the Cavs a lot of credit here. So we are expecting Donovan Mitchell to play, like you said, was at shoot around, got in a workout after 2. The issue here, it isn't just Donovan Mitchell's ankle sprain, though. It's that 3 of their main rotation players are still not 100% in Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and DeAndre Hunter. And then you add in Ty Jerome, forgetting how to play basketball, and you have a lot of question marks here. You have those shirts where it's like, a Fab Five shirts, Chris and Jalen and Jawan and Jimmy and Ray. For the Cavs right now, it's Donovan's ankle and Darius's toe and Evan's ankle and DeAndre's thumb. There's so many question marks right now with the Cavs health-wise that a lot of things kind of need to go right. I do like the Pacers to cover here because I'm skeptical that Donovan Mitchell is near 100%. He has his ankle sprain, but he's also been dealing with this calf issue for a large amount of the playoffs as well. So with the amount of injuries the Cavs are dealing with, it just leaves a lot less margin for error now with the supporting cast. We saw round 1 where they breezed through the Miami Heat without Darius Garland, and that was in large part because Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter were playing out of their mind. They were playing great. DeAndre Hunter is 2 for 10 from the field the last 2 games. Ty Jerome, over the last 3 games, has twice as many missed shots as points. With those guys not playing well, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland not 100%, it becomes a lot less dicey for them. So the Pacers just overall have a lot fewer question marks. Their entire roster is healthy. Rick Carlisle, his decisions are basically how deep to go in the rotation. Do you go to McConnell? Do you go to Toppin? Do you go to Thomas Bryant? Do you go to Ben Shepherd? Do you go to Jarris Walker? They're just in a much more solid position health-wise with a lot fewer question marks overall.
We've been mentioning this a couple of times here on the show. How do you handle this whole zigzag concept? If you're just playing straight up losers the next game, 31-15-1 against the spread in this postseason, nothing really makes sense. Have you handled that at all? Do you just kind of go, no, screw that. We shouldn't be baking these numbers too much. How do you handle such a strong trend, at least through these first 2 rounds?
Yeah, it is eye-catching, but like I kind of talked about last time I was on the show, I don't blindly subscribe to any trends or anything like that. I think it's ultimately, at the end of the day, all about the number. And I think the number here being 7.5 moving to 8 is still a little bit too much here. I think we saw that yesterday with the Celtics. Obviously Tatum went down with a devastating injury. It looks like an Achilles injury. But even then, I think the market was giving them a little bit too much credit and just kind of assuming that they would kind of take care of business in this spot. So I think the market is giving the Cavs a a lot of credit here. And there's a lot of underlying issues, a lot of problems under the hood, especially health-wise, that they still need to rectify before they earn 7.5, 8 against a very solid Pacers team.
Yeah, no disagreement here. And like you said, yes, that number trending toward 8. There are a handful of them out there. Managing Director of Unabated Sports, Justin Phan, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Let's head over to OKC, Denver. The Nuggets laying 10 at home, total 220.5. A lot of the conversation coming out of last game was Nikola Jokic looked like he was running out of gas. What are you expecting tonight? And particularly Jokic, from a prop perspective, what stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, just to put this in perspective, it's the first time in Nikola Jokic's career he shot worse than 40% on 15-plus shots in 3 straight games. And I think there's 2 factors in play here. 1, fatigue, and 2, defensive adjustments from Mark Diagonal. So the first topic being fatigue, I think it's obvious. They played a very tough 7-game series against the Clippers. Nikola Jokic is only second to his teammate Jamal Murray in total minutes played in the playoffs. That's not going to change. We can pretty much pencil in Nikola Jokic for 40-plus minutes tonight. He's been playing 40 to 44 pretty much every night. There's some overtime periods baked in there. I don't think that's going to change. The other thing is schematic. And I got to give Diagonal a lot of credit here because game 1, they put Chet Holmgren on Nikola Jokic. And Nikola Jokic just absolutely dominated Chet. From game 2 on, they started packing the paint and they switched Isaiah Hartenstein onto Nikola Jokic more often. And he's been playing Jalen Williams off the bench a little bit more too. So against Chet Holmgren in this series, Nikola Jokic is shooting 65%. Against against Isaiah Hartenstein and Jalen Williams, 36%. So I think schematically, OKC is going to kind of keep this same alignment, throw Hartenstein and Jalen Williams against them, pack the paint, turn him into a jump shooter. It isn't fluky. Obviously, Nikola's one of the greatest singular, unique offensive talents we've seen. But this Thunder defense is obviously legit. They were the best defense in the regular season. This isn't fluky. They have the personnel to give Nikola a tough time, and he has such a huge burden on his shoulders every game, playing 40-plus minutes. So I do expect the inefficiency to continue, but we see Nikola just with his usage, his role, he can just get up there. He can have a bad game and still put up like 25, 14, and 12. Right now, we're looking at the prop market. I think it's pretty efficient right now. I don't see any edges either way on the over or the under. I think the market's, striking the right balance between volume and inefficiency with Nikola now. So don't think there's a big edge there. I saw kind of heading into last game, the market was a little hot, not kind of factoring in the problems defensively OKC was giving him. I think they are now.
Do we read anything or do anything with Lou Dort not playing in the fourth quarter the other day?
I think that's probably the best angle props-wise today. Dort has a huge range, obviously. It matters a lot of how that jump shot is looking. If he's not making threes, it becomes a lot more difficult for Diagonal to keep him on the court. And we see a pretty wide range. I do think there's some edge right now in the Case and Wallace markets. Caruso, there's a little bit of an edge there. We saw those two specifically eat into Lou Dort's minutes. The Case and stuff I'm noticing has a bit more of an edge than Caruso. Caruso's a more known quantity. He's gotten up there in minutes already this series. Case and Wallace is more that, third, fourth guard in that rotation. That's a little bit more slept on. That's starting to gain a little bit more momentum. So the Dort range is very wide today. We saw him, barely play last game, not close. But I do think if Lou Dort hits shots today, those threes start to go in, could easily see Lou Dort hit 32 minutes again, right? But we saw the floor, and that was obviously very scary last game. So I do think, that's a very interesting angle. I don't think Diagonal's going to make any sort of lineup change. So I would expect him still in there, and Case and Wallace, I think, would be the one that benefits the most market-wise.
Justin, awesome spot today. Thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.
Justin Phan, Unabated, doing great stuff, especially with the NBA product that they have out there. And you can get more NBA prop analysis like this over there at Unabated. Expert profitable profiles for players, NBA news, start sit projection models, plus access to Unabated's expert team, including guys like Justin through their Discord channels and regular interactive live streams. Want more information? Head over to unabated.com/vsin. You can get some of that subscription info. Again, unabated.com/vsin. Really appreciate Justin's time. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, resetting for hour 2 of the program. All 272 NFL games schedule-wise will be revealed Wednesday, but we've got 12 of them out now and lines.